just saw a video about combat shooting, right? And I assume, they're drawing parallels from like combat shooting in terms of engagement shooting for law enforcement or whatever. Like that's where the context is going. Hey, this is what we're trying to drive home, and then everything is like, well, you don't see your sights. You just have to be comfortable not seeing your sights, and that's something I think that's gotten proliferated within the training community. Of well, if it's an engagement, then not aiming is okay. Like, what would you think about that?
I don't agree with it in our profession, and that's all I know. Um, I get it, like the point shooting, like it was a dude from back in New York who got in a bunch of shootings who had like gutter sights on his gun, right? He's not pointing just in the general direction of the target. He's looking at a very specific place, and his presentation and alignment were able to make those shots happen for him, right? The combat shooting, I don't know what that is, and I don't know what combat accuracy is. If you're talking at like 400 yards and you're putting any kind of metal on any kind of meat, I mean, it's effective in some way. But in the engagement distances that we're talking about, just spraying rounds around, especially because the vast majority are missing, they're completely ineffective. They're exceptionally dangerous. And I don't buy into that argument. And I can't remember who said it first, but it was like, would you want to be the surgeon to work on this guy? And he has like 4 bullet holes and they're like Delta Charlie all up, like all over the place. Or this guy with 1 hole in the middle. I'm like, the dude with 1 hole in the middle isn't going to make it to an operating table. Like, he's just not going to make it there. And the other dude, if he makes it to an operating table, again, we're talking about pistols, they absolutely suck at killing people. They're not that great at stopping them either, unless you're very effective with where you're putting the rounds. So I don't even get that whole concept of you just got to get it lined up. If the dude is standing right in front of you at arm's reach, yes, the gun just needs to be pointed in that general direction. But if you're blowing them through a guy who weighs 300 pounds, if you're blowing him through the side of his stomach, it's not going to be as effective. It has less of a chance of being effective than if you were to put them where they actually belong. Would you agree with that?
I do agree with this. So let's try to talk around this, right? Because guys will say, well, I think there's an argument. Guy draws a pistol at arm's length. Adversary does, right? And it's like, that's the cue. Yep, the game has started. I'm going to draw my pistol. I would hope that you are no longer, by the time that gun is up in front of your face for the officer, that you're at arm's length. If you're not, I think you're introducing the wrong tool for the job, right? And I'm not a cop. I've never been a cop, but I would say in terms of like a circle of awareness of what tool solves the problem the best at the distance, right? So we could assume that in a gunfight where a suspect draws a gun and we're at 3 feet, that very quickly the distance increases, right? That should be the number one goal.
The goal.
The game has started.
Yeah, the goal.
Now I need to move, and I need to be able to retreat, whether it's retreat linear standpoint, retreat laterally, right? But I'm going to create angles that are favorable to me. This goes into a whole nother conversation that most people won't look for, right? Where if a guy pulls a gun out and he's holding a gun with his right hand, right, and he brings it out, which way do you retreat? Like now you're making assumptions that these guys are actually switched on and actually trained. Are you even able to look at now to assess in a couple hundredths of a second what that retreat looks like? So let's say, I would say for the garden variety people, no, they're not, right? So you're going to get we're going to increase distance, right? Everybody would like get off the X, right? And this is where
I have an answer for what I think I'm going to do, but I want to wait to see what you're going to say.
I think this gets muddied down. Like for me, I am going to take the information I have at face value and react to it accordingly, right? And I am always going to retreat towards the gun
Yes.
side, because it puts him in the most disadvantageous position to engage me. Now I'm trying to get my gun out. I'm trying to actually aim, come up with an acceptable, sight picture based off distance, difficulty, situation, context. I want the bullets to go. I want the first round to go exactly where I want it to go. If I don't get that one exactly where I want it to go, the second one needs to be there. And what I think a lot of people miss in terms of, right, guys that are talking about, well, it's combat shooting, you don't see your sights. Like, I assess all those dudes like, you are very, very low level skill trained. And I'm willing to talk about it. Well, I did this or that. No, let's talk about it in absence of anything you did in the past. Let's talk about where this comes from. Because if unsighted fire is your go-to move in an engagement, like, I think you're wrong. Because the best guys in the world, at a minimum, will have an articulatable aiming scheme for everything that they're doing. It's not going to be, I just cover the target with the back plate and then I start sending them.
Right, it's the acceptable picture.
Yeah.
But if you don't know what it looks like ahead of time, you don't even have one. Exactly. If you haven't attempted it.